Nova's champagne glass shattered against the marble floor the exact moment she realized the three men in black suits weren't looking at her by accident. They were hunting her. The upscale soul party buzzed around her, oblivious. Crystal chandeliers glittered overhead. Korea's elite laughed and clinked glasses, and Nova stood frozen in her server's uniform, watching the men move through the crowd like sharks cutting through water. Their eyes locked on her face. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She'd seen that look before, back in Lagos, right before her cousin's shop got burned down over unpaid debts. Cold, clinical, final. One of them whispered into his phone, never breaking eye contact. Nova's fingers tightened around her empty serving tray. The ballroom had 3 exits. The main doors were too far. The kitchen was behind her, maybe 20 steps, but crowded with staff. The balcony... "Don't run." The voice came from directly behind her, low and commanding. A hand settled on her lower back, firm enough to feel like a cage. Before Nova could turn, she was being guided, no, controlled, away from her spot by the dessert table. "Smile," the voice continued in perfect English, though she'd heard him speaking Korean moments ago. "Like you're exactly where you want to be." Nova's customer service smile activated on autopilot, even as her mind screamed. She let herself be steered through the crowd, barely registering the expensive cologne or the way people stepped aside automatically for whoever was behind her. They stopped near a leather sofa in a corner where shadows pooled despite the bright lights. The hand on her back pressed slightly, and Nova found herself being turned and pulled down. She landed on someone's lap. Her breath caught. The man beneath her was younger than his voice suggested, maybe 30, with sharp cheekbones and eyes like black ice. His 3-piece suit probably cost more than her entire year's tuition. Everything about him screamed power, from the silver watch on his wrist to the way he held her waist like he owned her. "What?" "Quiet." His hand slid higher on her waist, possessive and deliberate. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple. Intimate. Established. His other hand came up to brush a lock from her face, the gesture almost tender if not for the warning in his eyes. "The 3 men at your 9 o'clock. They work for the Choi family. Do you know what that means?" Nova's mouth went dry. Even she'd heard of the Choi family. Loan sharks. Enforcers. People who made problems disappear. "They're here for you," he continued, his thumb now tracing a deliberate circle on her hip that made her skin burn through the thin fabric of her uniform. "They've been tracking you for 3 weeks. Tonight they plan to take you from the parking garage after your shift." Who are you?" "Someone who needs you alive." His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached. His eyes, "Hey, Nesties, welcome to Afro-Korean Stories Nest. If you're already loving this, drop a like and let me know where you're watching from. Now let's get back into it." The 3 men had stopped moving. They stood 20 feet away, watching. One of them pulled out his phone again. The man holding Nova leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. To anyone watching, it looked like a lover's whisper. "In about 30 seconds, they're going to realize you're under my protection. They'll leave. Then you and I are going to have a conversation about your father." "My father?" Nova tried to pull back, but his grip tightened. "Don't move." It wasn't a suggestion. "They're looking for any sign you're not mine, any excuse to test me. I'm not anyone's—" "Yes, you are. For the next 60 seconds, you're mine, or you're dead. Choose quickly." Nova's pride wanted her to slap him. Her survival instinct kept her frozen. One of the Choi men started walking toward them. The man beneath her shifted, and suddenly Nova felt the hard outline of a gun pressed against her thigh, hidden by the drape of her server's apron. His message was clear. He was armed, dangerous, and currently the only thing between her and whatever the Choi family had planned. "Smile at me," he ordered softly, like I just said something charming. "You're insane. Smile, Nova." Her blood turned to ice. "How do you know my name?" "I know everything about you. Nova Chen, 24, nursing student at Yonsei. Your mother needs surgery that costs more than you'll make in 5 years. Your father is James Chen, who borrowed $500,000 from my family before disappearing 8 months ago." His hand tightened on her waist. "Now smile, or I let the Choi family have you. I promise my terms will be better than theirs." The Choi enforcer was 10 feet away now. Nova forced her lips to curve. It felt like swallowing glass. "Better," the man murmured. Then louder, in Korean, he said something that made the enforcer stop cold. The air in the room shifted. Conversations nearby died. People turned to look, then quickly looked away, their faces carefully blank. The enforcer's hand had moved inside his jacket, toward a weapon, Nova realized with cold terror. But now it dropped to his side. He bowed, stiff and minimal, then turned and walked away. His 2 companions followed without a word. Nova couldn't breathe. "What did you say?" "I told him you belong to Jeon Min-jae, and that anyone who touches what's mine will be delivered to their family in pieces." He finally released her waist, though his hand remained close enough to grab her if she tried to run. Dramatic, I know, but effective. Jeon Min-jae. Nova's voice came out strangled. She'd heard that name whispered in the Korean restaurants where she sometimes picked up extra shifts. Jeon Min-jae, who ran half of Seoul's underground. Jeon Min-jae, who once made a rival gang. Leader disappear, along with his entire family, for breaking a deal. Jeon Min-jae, in whose lap she was currently sitting. Oh, God. Close enough. He gestured to the space beside him on the sofa. "Sit properly. We need to talk, and you drawing attention to yourself won't help either of us." Nova scrambled off his lap, her legs shaking. She perched on the edge of the sofa, ready to run despite knowing it was pointless. Min-jae studied her with those cold, calculating eyes. "Your father has something I need. Evidence about who murdered my father 3 years ago. Without it, I'll be dead within a month. There's a coup brewing in my organization, and I need to eliminate my enemies before they eliminate me. I haven't seen my father in—" "I don't care." Min-jae cut her off. "He has the evidence. You're going to help me find him." Before we continue, smash that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me if you trust Min-jae or not. I want to know what you're thinking. I don't know where he is. Nova's hands clenched in her lap. "He abandoned us. He's a coward and a liar, and I hope I never see him again." Something flickered in Min-jae's expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. "You hate him." "I despise him." The words tasted like freedom. "He drained my mother's savings, disappeared when she got sick, and apparently put a target on my back. So no, I'm not interested in helping you find him, so you can shake him down for money he definitely doesn't have." Min-jae leaned back, reassessing her. "I'm not interested in money." "Then what?" "I told you, evidence. Your father witnessed my father's murder. He took photos, recorded conversations, enough to prove who gave the order." Min-jae's voice dropped lower. "The man who killed my father is my uncle. He's been slowly poisoning my organization from within, turning my own people against me. In 3 weeks, he'll have enough support to stage a complete takeover. I'll be dead and he'll run everything." Nova wanted to care. She really did. But her mother was dying in a hospital bed, and she was sitting next to a crime lord who'd just claimed ownership of her in front of a room full of Seoul's most dangerous people. "That's terrible, truly, but I can't help you." "Yes, you can." Min-jae pulled out his phone, tapped something, and turned the screen toward her. Nova's breath caught. It was a bank statement. Her mother's hospital account. The balance showed $200,000, exactly what they needed for the surgery. "How did you—" "I can make that real." Min-jae pulled the phone back. "I can also make sure your mother gets the best surgeon in Asia, a private room, and care that will actually save her life, instead of the budget treatment that's slowly killing her." He paused. "Or I can let the Choi family know you're no longer under my protection. They'll use you to draw out your father, torture you for information you don't have, then kill you when you're no longer useful. Your mother will die alone, wondering why her daughter never came back." Nova's nails bit into her palms. You're a monster. Yes. No hesitation, no shame. But I'm a monster offering you a deal. Help me find your father and get the evidence, and I'll give you everything you need to save your mother and disappear. You'll never see him again. Never see me again. Clean break. And if I say no? Min-jae stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. Then enjoy the rest of your evening. You have about 45 minutes before the Choi family catches you in the parking garage. I hear they're not gentle. He started to walk away. Nova's mind raced. Her mother's face flashed before her eyes. Gaunt, weak, fading a little more each day. The doctors had given her 6 months, maybe less. The surgery was her only chance, and Nova had exactly $8,000 saved. She'd need 25 years to earn the rest. But this man was offering blood money. Dirty money. Money that came from whatever empire of violence and crime he'd built. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Do whatever it takes to survive, baby girl. Promise me. Nova closed her eyes, opened them. Wait. Min-jae stopped but didn't turn around. Waiting. If I do this... Her voice shook. She hated how weak she sounded. If I help you find him and get your evidence, you pay for my mother's surgery first, before we even start looking. Now he turned, one eyebrow raised. You don't trust me. Should I? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Smart girl. He walked back, pulling out his phone again. Give me your mother's hospital information. The transfer will be complete before you leave tonight. Surgery scheduled for next week. Just like that. I need you motivated and focused, not distracted by grief. He held out his phone. And Nova? If you try to run after I pay, I'll find you. I always find people who owe me. I don't owe you anything. This is a business deal. Is it? Min-jae's gaze dropped to her hands, still trembling slightly. You're terrified of me, but you're negotiating anyway. You hate your father, but you'll help me find him to save your mother. You're stronger than you think. Don't pretend you know me. I know you work 3 jobs while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. I know you haven't been home to Nigeria in 2 years because you send every spare dollar to your mother's treatment. I know you broke up with your boyfriend last month because he wanted you to quit school and marry him, and you'd rather be alone than small. Min-jae stepped closer. I know exactly who you are, Nova Chen. That's why I chose you. The words should have felt invasive. They did feel invasive. But there was something else there, too. Recognition. Like he saw her in a way most people didn't bother to. Nova grabbed his phone and typed in her mother's information with shaking fingers. 3 weeks. You said you have 3 weeks before this coup. Happens. Yes. Then we have 3 weeks to find my father, get your evidence, and never see each other again. Agreed. Min-jae took his phone back, made a call, spoke rapid Korean that Nova couldn't follow. Then he ended it and pocketed the phone. Done. Your mother's surgery is scheduled for next Wednesday. Top surgeon. Private suite. Nova's throat tightened. Just like that. Just like that. He gestured toward the ballroom exit. Now we leave. Together. My car is waiting. You'll stay at my penthouse until this is over. Absolutely not. The Choi family knows where you live, Nova. They know your schedule, your routes, your friends. If you go home tonight, you won't see morning. Min-jae's voice was matter of fact, like he was discussing the weather. My penthouse has security that makes the blue house look vulnerable. You'll be safe. Safe. With you. Safer than anywhere else in Seoul right now. He offered his arm like they were at a cotillion instead of negotiating her survival. Shall we? Try to look like you're enjoying my company. We have an audience. Nova glanced around. He was right. Half the room was watching them with barely concealed curiosity. A few women glared at her with open jealousy. Several men looked calculating, like they were reassessing alliances and power structures. She took his arm, feeling the hard muscle beneath the expensive fabric. I need to get my things from the break room. Already handled. My people collected your belongings. At her sharp look, he added, Your bag, your phone, your textbooks. Nothing was damaged. I'm not a barbarian." "You're definitely something," Nova muttered. Was that almost a joke? Min-jae guided her through the crowd, his hand settled at the small of her back again. "Careful. I might start thinking you have a personality. I might start thinking you're human." His laugh was low and unexpected. "Don't count on it." Min-jae's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building in Gangnam that probably cost more than a small country's GDP. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. Everything was sleek, modern, and cold. Black marble, chrome fixtures, abstract art that Nova suspected was worth more than her life. "Guest room is down the hall," Min-jae said, shrugging off his suit jacket. "Second door on the left. You'll find clothes in your size in the closet." Nova stopped walking. "How do you have clothes in my size?" "I'm thorough." He loosened his tie, and Nova tried very hard not to notice the way the movement drew attention to his throat. "Tomorrow morning, we start looking for your father. I've already tracked down 3 of his known associates. We'll visit them, see what they know." "Visit them?" Nova crossed her arms. "What does that mean in your world? Torture? Threats?" "Only if they're uncooperative." Min-jae pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "Relax. I'm not a monster to everyone. Just to people who waste my time." That's not reassuring. He glanced up, and for a moment something almost playful flickered in his eyes. It wasn't meant to be. Then he nodded toward the hallway. "Get some sleep. We leave at 8. Nova didn't move. "Why me?" "What? You could have grabbed my father yourself. You clearly have the resources. Why involve me at all?" Min-jae set his phone down, studying her with that unnerving intensity. "Because your father is paranoid. He's been hiding for 8 months, moving every few weeks, using cash only. But he calls your mother's hospital room every Sunday at exactly 3 p.m. He doesn't know she's unconscious during those calls. He doesn't know the nurses have been documenting them." Nova's chest tightened. Her father had been calling? All this time, while her mother struggled to breathe, while Nova worked herself to exhaustion, he'd been calling? He still cares about her. Min-jae continued, "Which means he'll care about you. You're the bait that will draw him out." "Bait?" The word tasted bitter. Bait that gets $200,000 and her mother's life saved. Min-jae's expression didn't change. "I'm not pretending this is charity, Nova. I need something. You need something. We use each other until we both get what we want. That's the deal. You really don't feel anything, do you?" Something dangerous flashed across his face. "I feel plenty. I just don't let it control me." He picked up his phone again, dismissing her. "Go to bed." Nova wanted to argue, but exhaustion was catching up with her. The adrenaline from the party was wearing off, leaving her shaky and drained. She headed down the hallway, found the guest room, which was bigger than her entire apartment, and locked the door behind her. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly. Of course they did. She changed into the softest pajamas she'd ever touched, then sat on the edge of the massive bed and pulled out her phone. Her mother's hospital account showed the transfer. $200,000. Real. Actually there. Nova's hands trembled as she dialed the hospital. "Miss Chen?" The night nurse sounded surprised. "Is everything okay?" "The payment. Did it go through? Is the surgery really scheduled?" "Yes. Dr. Kim himself will be performing it. We're so relieved. Your mother's going to get the best care possible." The nurse's voice softened. "This is a miracle." A miracle. Nova ended the call and stared at the phone. No, not a miracle, a devil's bargain. But her mother would live, and that was all that mattered. She didn't remember falling asleep. Morning came too fast. Nova woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover, and the smell of coffee. She stumbled out of the bedroom in yesterday's clothes. She refused to wear anything else Min-jae had provided, and found him in the kitchen. He looked different in daylight. Still dangerous, still unnervingly handsome, but more human. He'd traded the suit for dark jeans and a black button-down, sleeves rolled up to reveal surprisingly strong forearms. He was cooking. You cook? The words slipped out before Nova could stop them. Min-jae didn't look up from whatever he was doing at the stove. I eat, therefore I cook. Would you prefer I starve? I'd prefer you come with a warning label. Danger. May save your life and demand repayment? He slid a plate across the counter, eggs, perfectly cooked, with toast and fruit. Eat, we have a long day. Nova eyed the food suspiciously. Is it poisoned? If I wanted you dead, there are faster methods. But his lips twitched, almost a smile. Besides, you're no good to me unconscious. She sat and took a bite. It was delicious, which somehow made her angrier. Where did you learn to cook? My grandmother. She said a man who can't feed himself is useless. Min-jae poured 2 cups of coffee, sliding one, toward her. She also said a man who can't protect what matters is worse than useless, so I learned to do both. Is she still alive? Yes, you'll meet her eventually. She'll either love you or try to have you deported. 50-50 odds. He leaned against the counter, watching her eat with an expression she couldn't read. How's your mother? The question surprised her. The surgery is scheduled for Wednesday. They say she has a real chance now. Good. Min-jae sipped his coffee. Then let's make sure you survive long enough to see her recover. Something in his tone made Nova look up. What aren't you telling me? The Choi family is connected to my uncle. They'll be actively hunting you now, trying to grab you before I can use you to find your father. We need to move fast. He set down his cup. Which means today, you're not Nova Chen, nursing student. You're Nova John, my girlfriend. We're going to visit some very dangerous people, and they need to believe you're under my protection. Completely. Permanently. Fake girlfriend. Nova's stomach flipped. For how long? However long it takes. Min-jae's gaze held hers. Can you act like you're in love with someone you hate? Can you act like you're capable of love at all? His smile was sharp. Guess we'll both find out. He pushed off the counter. Finish eating. We leave in 20 minutes. And Nova, wear the black dress in the closet, the one with the gold trim. Why? Because where we're going, you need to look like you're worth dying for. He headed toward his bedroom, then paused. And because it'll drive my enemies insane wondering how I found someone like you. Someone like me? Min-jae looked back, his expression unreadable. Someone real. Then he was gone, leaving Nova alone with her coffee and a strange, fluttering feeling in her chest that she absolutely refused to acknowledge. The black dress fit like it was made for her body specifically. It probably was. The gold trim caught the light, elegant but not flashy. Nova stared at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. She looked dangerous. She looked expensive. She looked like she belonged next to someone like John Min-jae. I'm gonna hell for this, she muttered, then headed out to play the role of her life. Min-jae was waiting by the door, back in a suit that probably cost more than her tuition. His eyes tracked over her, professional, assessing, then stopped on her face. Perfect, he said simply. I look like a criminal's accessory. You look like mine, he offered his arm. Ready? Nova took a breath, took his arm. Let's go find my deadbeat father. That's my girl. The words were casual, throwaway. So why did they make her heart skip? The first associate lived in a rundown apartment building in Itaewon that smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. Min-jae's hand never left Nova's lower back as they climbed the stairs, his touch both possessive and protective. Let me do the talking, he murmured as they reached the 3rd floor. You just stand there and look like you'd rather be anywhere else. Shouldn't be hard. I hate you. See? You're a natural. The door opened before Min-jae could knock. A man in his 50s with nervous eyes and trembling hands stood in the doorway. His gaze flicked from Min-jae to Nova, then back again, fear blooming across his face. Mr. John, I paid last month. I swear. I'm not here about money, Kim. Min-jae's voice was almost gentle. Almost. I'm looking for James Chen. I know you worked with him at the shipyard before he disappeared. Kim's face went pale. I don't know anything. I haven't asked a question yet. Min-jae smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. When was the last time you saw him? I told the others I don't know where he is. The others? Min-jae's hand tightened slightly on Nova's back. Who else is looking for him? Kim's eyes darted to Nova, lingering on her face. Recognition flickered there. Is she mine? Min-jae said softly. Answer my question. The Choi family sent people last week. They were less polite than you. Kim touched his ribs unconsciously, and Nova saw the edge of a bruise beneath his collar. I told them the same thing. James disappeared 8 months ago. Before he left, he was paranoid. Kept talking about evidence, about insurance. Said he had something that would keep him alive if the right people came looking. Did he say what? No, but he asked me about safe deposit boxes. Wanted to know which banks didn't ask too many questions. Kim swallowed hard. I gave him 3 names. That's all I know, I swear. Min-jae studied him for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, tapped something, and showed Kim the screen. Your daughter needs tuition money for university, correct? Kim's eyes widened. How did you... It's paid. All 4 years. Min-jae pocketed his phone. Consider it thanks for your cooperation. But Kim, if you tell anyone I was here asking about James Chen, your daughter won't make it to her first day of classes. Understand? Kim nodded frantically. They left him standing in his doorway, looking like he'd just survived a hurricane. You paid for his daughter's education? Nova asked once they were back in the car, a sleek black sedan with bulletproof windows and a driver who looked like he could kill someone with his pinky finger. He cooperated. I reward cooperation. Min-jae scrolled through his phone. 3 banks that don't ask questions. That narrows it down. We'll need to... You didn't have to threaten his daughter. Min-jae looked up, one eyebrow raised. I didn't threaten her. I threatened him with consequences if he compromises my operation. There's a difference. Is there? Yes, because I just gave her a future she wouldn't have had otherwise. But I also ensured her father won't get her killed by running his mouth to my enemies. His gaze held hers. I'm not a hero, Nova, but I'm not needlessly cruel either. I do what's necessary. And you decide what's necessary. Someone has to. He returned to his phone. Next associate is across town. We should... His phone buzzed. Min-jae's expression darkened as he read the message. What? Nova asked. Change of plans. Min-jae leaned forward, speaking rapid Korean to the driver. The car changed direction, accelerating. My grandmother wants to meet you. Now. What? Why? Because news travels fast in my world, and apparently half of Seoul is talking about the woman John Min-jae claimed at the party last night. He gave her an apologetic look that seemed almost genuine. She's protective and curious, and she'll make my life miserable if I don't bring you to lunch. I didn't agree to meet your family. You agreed to play my girlfriend. That includes family appearances. Min-jae's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it and winced. She's already ordered your favorite foods. Apparently, she had someone research you this morning. This is insane. Welcome to my life. Min-jae loosened his tie slightly, and Nova realized he was actually nervous. Fair warning, my grandmother is terrifying. She's 83, 4 feet 11 inches tall, and has made grown men cry. Be respectful, don't mention the criminal empire, and whatever you do, don't refuse her food. What happens if I refuse her food? I honestly don't know, and I'm too afraid to find out. Despite everything, Nova almost laughed. The terrifying crime boss is scared of his grandmother? Everyone's scared of my grandmother. She once stared down 3 armed robbers in her grocery store until they apologized and left. Min-jae's expression softened, slightly. She raised me after my father died. She's the only person in the world I trust completely. The vulnerability in his voice caught Nova off guard. For a moment, he wasn't Jaeon Min-jae, feared crime lord. He was just a man who loved his grandmother. Okay, Nova said quietly. I'll be respectful. Thank you. His hand found hers, squeezing briefly before letting go. The gesture felt automatic, like he'd done it 1,000 times before. And Nova? She's going to ask if we're serious, if I'm treating you well, if you're happy. What do I say? Lie. His smile was crooked. Tell her I'm wonderful. She'll know it's not true, but she'll appreciate the effort. Min Jae's grandmother lived in a traditional hanok in Bukchon, surrounded by a garden that put Eden to shame. The moment they walked through the door, a tiny woman in an elegant hanbok emerged from the kitchen like a general inspecting troops. She looked Nova up and down with sharp, assessing eyes. Then she smiled. Finally, she said in perfect English, my grandson brings home someone with substance. Come, child, you look hungry. Grandmother, Min Jae started. Hush, I'm not talking to you. She took Nova's hand, her grip surprisingly strong. You're the nursing student, the one who works 3 jobs, the one who takes care of her sick mother. Nova blinked. You know about that? I know everything. The old woman pulled her toward the dining room, where enough food for 20 people covered the table. Sit, eat. Tell me how my useless grandson convinced someone like you to tolerate his company. I'm standing right here, Min Jae said. Yes, blocking the doorway. Move. His grandmother pointed imperiously at a chair. Sit. Both of you. Now. They sat. For the next hour, Nova experienced the strangest meal of her life. Min Jae's grandmother, call me Halmoni, everyone does, asked about her studies, her mother's health, her life and soul. She told stories about Min Jae as a child, each one more embarrassing than the last. He once cried for 3 hours because I wouldn't let him adopt a stray dog, Halmoni said, spooning more banchan onto Nova's plate. He was 14, sobbing like a baby. Grandmother, please. The dog had fleas and an attitude problem, just like you. Halmoni patted Min Jae's hand affectionately. But you wore me down eventually. We kept the dog for 12 years. Nova watched Min Jae's ears turn red and felt something shift in her chest. He was human. Complicated. More than just the cold crime boss who'd pulled her onto his lap and demanded her cooperation. He speaks of you differently, Halmoni said suddenly, her sharp eyes on Nova. Than the others. There haven't been others, Min Jae said quickly. There have been many others, none that mattered. Halmoni squeezed Nova's hand. But you make his voice soft. That's new. Nova's throat tightened. We're just lying to an old woman? Halmoni smiled. I may be old, child, but I'm not blind. I see how he looks at you, like you're something precious he's afraid to break. Nova glanced at Min Jae. He was staring at his grandmother with an expression caught between horror and resignation. Eat more, Halmoni commanded, breaking the moment. You're too thin. My grandson needs to feed you better. I'm feeding her fine, Min Jae protested. You made her eggs. Eggs! That's not a meal. That's an apology for not having real food. Nova couldn't help it. She laughed. Actually laughed. And for just a moment, sitting in this beautiful house with this fierce old woman and the crime boss, who was terrified of her, Nova forgot about the danger, forgot about her father, forgot about the 3-week deadline. She just existed. They were leaving Halmoni's house when Min Jae's phone exploded with alerts. His expression went dark as he read them, his jaw tightening with each message. What? Nova asked. Your father used his credit card 2 hours ago at a hotel in Busan. Min Jae was already moving toward the car. Idiot, he's either desperate or it's a trap. Busan is 3 hours away. Not the way I drive. Min Jae opened her door, hand on her back. Get in. We leave now. Nova climbed in, her heart pounding. After 8 months of silence, her father was suddenly careless enough to use a credit card? You think it's your uncle, setting a trap. I know it is. Min Jae slid in beside her, already making calls in rapid Korean. But we don't have a choice. If your father really is there, this might be our only chance before he disappears again. And if it's a trap..." He pulled a gun from somewhere under his jacket, checked it with practiced ease, then tucked it away. Then we spring it carefully. The drive to Busan was tense and silent. Nova watched the city blur past, her mind racing. What would she even say to her father? The man who'd abandoned them, who'd put them in danger, who'd been calling her unconscious mother like his absence was somehow noble. "You're angry," Min-jae said quietly. "I'm furious." "Good. Angry people make fewer mistakes." His hand found hers on the seat between them, warm and steady. "Stay close to me. Whatever happens, you don't leave my side. Understand?" "I understand you're holding my hand." Min-jae looked down, seeming surprised to find their fingers intertwined. He started to pull away, then didn't. "It's for comfort. You're scared." "I'm not scared." "Liar." But his thumb traced a circle on her palm, gentle and deliberate. "It's okay to be scared, Nova. Smart people are scared. Only idiots feel no fear." "Are you scared?" "Terrified." His admission was so quiet she almost missed it. "I'm bringing you into a potential war zone. Because I'm selfish and desperate. If something happens to you..." He didn't finish the sentence. Nova's chest tightened. "Nothing's going to happen. You said it yourself. I'm too valuable." "You're not valuable." Min-jae's eyes met hers, and there was something raw there, something real. "You're important. There's a difference." Before Nova could respond, the driver spoke in Korean. Min-jae's expression hardened. "We're here. The hotel is 2 blocks away. My people have the building surrounded, but..." He pulled out his gun again. "Stay behind me. If I tell you to run, you run. Don't argue. Don't hesitate. Just go." "Min-jae, promise me." Nova looked at this man who'd pulled her onto his lap 3 days ago, who'd paid for her mother's surgery, who was terrified of his grandmother and made perfect eggs and looked at her like she mattered. "I promise." They approached the hotel on foot. It was small, unremarkable, the kind of place people went to disappear. Min-jae's hand never left the small of her back, room 347. That's where the credit card had been used. Min-jae's men were already in position, on the stairs, in the hallway, covering every exit. He nodded to them, then turned to Nova. "Last chance to wait in the car." "Not happening." Stubborn, but he almost smiled. "Stay behind me." He knocked on the door. "James Chen, open up. I'm not patient, and I'm not the Choi family. You have 10 seconds. Silence. 8 seconds. "Min-jae," Nova started. The door exploded outward. Min-jae shoved Nova behind him as gunfire erupted. She hit the wall hard, ears ringing, watching Min-jae return fire with cold precision. His men flooded the hallway, shouts in Korean, more gunfire, then silence. Min-jae was bleeding, his shoulder dark red spreading across his white shirt. "You're shot!" Nova gasped, "barely grazed." But he swayed slightly. "The room! Check the room!" Nova's nursing training kicked in. She pushed past him, ignoring his protest, and entered the hotel room. It was empty except for one thing, a phone on the bed, ringing. She answered it. Nova. Her father's voice, familiar and hateful. "I'm sorry, baby girl. They have me. They said if I didn't lure you here..." The line went dead. Nova turned to find Min-jae leaning against the door frame, his face pale but his eyes sharp. It was a trap. They wanted both of us. "Your shoulder." "We'll wait." He pulled out his phone with his good hand, made a call, spoke quickly. Then he looked at Nova. "The evidence isn't in a bank. Your father had it on him, which means whoever has him now has everything I need." "Where is he?" "Tracking his phone now. They're moving, but..." Min-jae's expression shifted. "They're heading to the shipyard, where my father was killed. My uncle wants to end this where it started." Nova grabbed his good arm. "You're bleeding. You need a hospital." "I need to end this." But he let her examine the wound, shallow like he'd said, but still serious. "Can you patch it?" "Not here. Not properly." Then temporarily. His eyes held hers. Please, Nova, we're so close. Your father has the evidence. If we can get to him before my uncle... You'll die from blood loss before we get there. Then work fast. He sat on the bed, started unbuttoning his shirt with clumsy fingers. Nova's hands shook as she helped him, revealing the hard planes of his chest and the bullet wound on his shoulder. She used the hotel's first aid kit, inadequate but better than nothing, cleaning and bandaging with practiced efficiency. You're good at this, Min-jae murmured. I better be. It's my career. Nova tied off the bandage tighter than necessary. You're an idiot for getting shot. Noted. And if you die, I'm going to kill you. That seems counterproductive. But his hand came up, catching her wrist, pulling her closer. Nova. What? Thank you for not running, for staying. His thumb brushed across her pulse. Point. For being braver than you should be. I'm not brave, I'm terrified. That's what makes it brave. His eyes searched hers. When this is over, don't. Nova pulled back. Don't make promises about after. Just survive, both of us. Min-jae nodded slowly. Then he stood, buttoned his shirt over the bandage, and picked up his gun. Let's go get your father, and my evidence, and end this. The shipyard was abandoned, rusted containers and broken machinery creating a maze of shadows. Min-jae's men spread out silently. Nova stayed close to him, feeling his warmth despite the cold night air. There. Min-jae pointed to a lit warehouse in the distance. That's where they'll be. They moved through the darkness, Min-jae's breathing slightly labored but steady. As they approached the warehouse, Nova heard voices, shouting, a gunshot. Min-jae's hand tightened on hers. Whatever happens in there, remember, you're stronger than you think. Min-jae... He kissed her. Fast. And desperate and completely unexpected. His lips were warm against hers, his good hand cradling her face like she was something precious. Then he pulled back. For luck, he said roughly. That's not how luck works. Then for courage. He brushed his thumb across her cheek. Ready? Nova's heart was pounding for entirely new reasons. Ready. They burst through the warehouse doors together. Her father was tied to a chair in the center of the space, beaten and bloody. Min-jae's uncle stood beside him, gun in hand, surrounded by a dozen armed men. Nephew. The uncle smiled coldly. And the girl. How convenient. Min-jae stepped forward, shielding Nova. This is between us. Let them go. Them? The uncle laughed. You care about them? Both of them? How unexpected. The Ice Prince has a heart after all. The evidence, Min-jae said calmly. Where is it? Right here. The uncle held up a USB drive. Everything your father gathered before I killed him. Recordings, photos, proof. He tossed it in the air, caught it. Worth dying for? Yes. Gunfire erupted. Min-jae shoved Nova behind a container, returning fire. His men poured in through every entrance. Chaos, shouting. The sharp crack of bullets. Nova saw her father struggling with his restraints. Without thinking, she ran, ducking behind machinery, dodging bullets, and reached him. Nova! Her father's eyes widened. No, you have to... She was already untying him, her hands quick and efficient. Shut up! We're leaving! A guard appeared. Nova grabbed a piece of metal pipe and swung hard, hitting him in the knee. He went down. Since when do you fight? Her father gasped. Since you put a target on my back. Nova got him free, pulled him up. Move. They were halfway to the exit when she saw it. Min-jae struggling with his uncle, the USB drive on the ground between them, both reaching for it. The uncle was faster. He grabbed the drive, aimed his gun at Min-jae's head. Nova threw the metal pipe. It hit the uncle's arm. The gun fired wild. The USB drive skittered across the floor. Min-jae didn't hesitate. He lunged, grabbed the drive, rolled behind cover. His uncle roared in fury, turning his gun toward Nova. Min-jae shot him. Once, twice, 3 times. The uncle fell. Silence crashed over the warehouse like a wave. Min-jae stood slowly, the USB drive in one hand, gun in the other, looking at Nova with an expression of complete disbelief. "You threw a pipe at him. You're welcome. You could have been killed." "But I wasn't." Nova's legs were shaking. "Is it over?" Min-jae looked at the drive in his hand, at his uncle's body, at his men securing the warehouse. "Yes, it's over." 3 weeks later, Nova stood outside the hospital, watching her mother sleep peacefully in her private room. The surgery had been perfect. The recovery was ahead of schedule. She would live. "Nova." She turned. Min-jae stood there in a simple black coat, looking less like a crime lord and more like a man. His shoulder had healed. His empire was secure. His enemies were gone. "I thought you'd left already," she said quietly, without saying goodbye. He moved closer. "I'm not that cruel, aren't you?" "Probably." His hand found hers. Familiar now. "Your father's in witness protection, new identity, new life. You'll never see him again." "Good. Your mother's care is covered forever. The account is yours, untraceable." Min-jae squeezed her hand. "You're free, Nova. From him. From me. From all of it. What about you? I'm transitioning the business. Legitimate operations, it'll take years, but..." He looked at her, and there was something soft in his eyes. Something hopeful. "I'm trying to be someone who deserves you." Nova's throat tightened. "You saved my mother's life." "You saved mine, multiple times." He smiled, real and warm. "I think you're ahead. So what now? Now, you finish your degree. You become an amazing nurse. You live your life." Min-jae lifted her hand, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. "And maybe, when I've earned it, you let me buy you coffee. Just coffee. Nothing else. Just coffee to start." His eyes held hers. "I'm patient, Nova. I can wait." Nova thought about the man who'd pulled her onto his lap, who'd threatened and protected her in equal measure. The man who was terrified of his grandmother and made perfect eggs. The man who'd taken a bullet and kissed her like she mattered. "Thursday," she said, 3 p.m., the cafe near campus. His smile could have lit the city. "I'll be there." "Min-jae? Yes? Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it." He squeezed her hand once more, then let go. "See you Thursday, Nova Chen." She watched him walk away, this dangerous man who'd changed her life. Then she turned back to her mother's room, feeling lighter than she had in years. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. So what did you think? Drop a comment below. Would you give Min-jae a second chance? And don't forget to like and share this story with someone who loves a good romance with danger. Hit that subscribe button for more stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. See you in the next one.